Welcome, Roomers and Zoomers, to Orange Coast Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Jan Mabey. I am your worship associate today, and I will be joining you as a Zoomer. I am joined by Beth Syverson, our Director of Music Ministries, in welcoming you this morning. Karen Magoon Pearson, our Director of Religious Education, is holding classes for our children and youth at Estancia Park. Our minister, Reverend Sean Wilshire, is not in the pulpit today, but she has a special message for you.
Hello, Roomers and Zoomers. So I'm away this week, but my spirit is with you. For those of you who are new to the church, maybe you're just checking us out or curious about Unitarian Universalism, welcome. Glad you're here. You are in for a treat. This is a wonderful, friendly, fabulous, just all around spectacular community. I hope you can get to know them because it can be kind of tough to get to know a new community. But here's the thing, just hang in there, join in one of the activities, and before long, you'll get to know people, and then this becomes your church. Well, today we planned a wonderful service for you, just blending music and word to bring together a helpful and hope-filled message. We hope it will feed your soul. So without further ado, let's go.
This morning, we are delighted to have Reverend Rica. Rica Kaufel was born and raised in Germany, graduated from Meadville Lombard Theological School, and completed her internship here at Orange Coast UU Church last June. And we were also the congregation to ordain her in January 2021. She is the part-time minister at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Anaheim and also works as a lecturer for academic English at UCI. Recently, she also started consulting for the German Unitarians. Her favorite thing in the world is spending time with her daughter, Elise. We would also like to recognize the many volunteers that have helped put this service together today. You can see their names on the screen. We respectfully recognize that our church property rests on a Hachiman and Kanva land. As Unitarian Universalists, we have many different beliefs, but we are one loving community. We are bound together not by a common set of rules or beliefs, but rather a covenant. A covenant is simply a promise that whatever our beliefs, we accept one another and encourage each other in spiritual growth. We affirm that all life has inherent value and that all existence is interconnected. We strive for justice and compassion in our deeds and relationships, and we are committed to creating a welcoming community without regard to the traits that sometimes divide people. To our roomers, we invite you to silence your cell phone. For our Zoomers, we invite you to say hello in the chat. I'd like to remind the roomers not to sing along with our music leader, even though you see the lyrics on the screen. Roomers can instead sway with the music. Zoomers can sing to your heart's content. We will let you know in the future when we can all sing together again during service. Roomers, we would also like to ask you to maintain 6 feet of distance in Daniel's Hall and keep your mask on whether you are in Daniel's Hall or in the courtyard. If any of our roomers would like to share a joy or sorrow, please fill out the slip that we handed you and place it in one of the baskets sometime between now and offertory. If you prefer not to offer any details, you can simply write your name. During the offertory musical selection, the ushers will be picking up the joys and sorrows slips from the baskets. I want to extend a special welcome to visitors. If you are seeking a spiritual home, we hope that you will find it here. Later in the service, we will have an opportunity for you to introduce yourself if you'd like to do so. After the service, we will be placing the Zoomers who remain into Zoom breakout rooms for 20 minutes of coffee and conversation. Rumors, we do not have coffee, but we have conversation. Everyone is welcome to participate, and it's a great way to get to know people. Let us begin with the lighting of our chalice as we say our unison affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. To dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. This we affirm together.
Good morning, everyone. Our opening song is Come, Come, Whoever You Are. It's by a Sufi poet from the 13th century Rumi. And in the room here, I would like to see if we can pull this one off. I want you to go like this. Join me if you can. And Zoomers, go ahead and sing with me. There are a couple different parts of this song, so just sing with whichever parts you like. So we've broken our vows 1,000 times. 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 So we've broken our worship 1,000 times. So we've broken our vows 1,000 times. So we've broken our vows 1,000 times. So we've broken our vows 1,000 times. So we've broken our worship 1,000 times. So we've broken our vows 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 1,000 times. So we've broken our worship 1,000 times. So we've broken our vows 1,000 times. So we've broken our vows 1,000 times. So we've broken our vows 1,000 times. So we've broken our worship 1,000 times. So we've broken our vows 1,000 times. So we've broken our vows 1,000 times. So we've broken our vows 1,000 times. So we've broken our worship 1,000 times. So we've broken our vows 1,000 times. So we've broken our vows 1,000 times. So we've broken our vows 1,000 times. So we've broken our worship 1,000 times. So we've broken our vows 1,000 times. So we've broken our vows 1,000 times. So we've broken.
Good morning, everyone. It is so wonderful to see you all. As we gather here this morning in the sanctuary and in this sacred virtual space, let us reflect on what has brought us here this morning. The decisions, the reasons, the challenges, and the needs that made us gather together. Maybe it's your beloved Sunday morning routine. Maybe it's the need to be in community, a community that allows you to be your full, authentic self. Maybe it's the feeling that the world is becoming too much to carry by yourself. Whatever has brought you today, whoever you are, know that you are welcome in this caravan. Despite all the different decisions, needs, or challenges that brought us here, we have all made it. Somehow we are all right here, right now, with open hearts and tender souls, ready to be together, grow together, discover together, constantly evolving, constantly changing, ready to worship together. Welcome. Thank you, Amelia. That was wonderful. Our reading today is by the Reverend Jackie Clement, and it's entitled Faith and Belief, Always Why Sometimes Grabbing Onto What Appears Most Solid is Exactly the Wrong Thing to Do. Last summer, my husband John and I were canoeing in New Hampshire. At the end of a trip around the lake, I climbed out of the canoe first, had 1 foot in the lake and 1 foot in the canoe. That's where things went wrong. While taking my foot out of the canoe, I caught my heel on the edge. Losing my balance, I instinctively reached for the most solid thing within my grasp, the canoe. There are times when grabbing onto what appears most solid and stable is exactly the wrong thing to do. When I resurfaced, I saw my husband sitting in 1.5 feet of water, fishing for his glasses on the lake bottom. In my attempt to save myself, I took an innocent bystander down as well. I tell this story not to demonstrate my lack of boating experience, but to say that I understand the emotional impetus to grab onto what seems most stable and solid when the world is tipping us off our feet. In religious terms, we might say that we are driven to hold on ever more tightly to our beliefs when we are under stress. Like grabbing a canoe for stability, depending on belief to keep us from going under is to grasp at the wrong thing. It is not our belief that we need to hold on to, but our faith. Though the two are often taken to mean the same thing, there is a subtle but critical difference. Faith is a deeply seated confidence vital to our very existence. Belief is only what we think is true, though we wouldn't stake our lives on it. Faith leaves room for mystery. Belief does not. As Albert Einstein wrote in his personal credo, the most beautiful emotion we can experience is the mysterious. Sometimes what seems most solid and stable is only an illusion of stability. Things that appear more ethereal, that may seem to be the toughest to grasp, are in fact the most stable and secure. Love, faith, and community may seem to be intangible ideals, but if nurtured, they can serve as the bedrock of our lives. Beliefs can fall away, but the things that seem most insubstantial, perhaps because they can be the hardest to come by, have the greatest worth and provide the steadiest base. Roomers, please join me in swaying, and Zoomers, feel free to sing along in our journeying song, Open My Heart. One of the most defining times of my life was a year I spent in Dublin when I was 17 years old. Back then, spending a year abroad during high school was the thing to do in Germany. Some of you may have had German exchange students at your school, or maybe your family even hosted one. But the US seemed awfully far away back then, so I went to Ireland instead. Initially, I stayed with a host family, But after a few months, that arrangement fell through. And instead of finding a new host family, I moved into Malaysia House, a private dorm for international students in Dublin. I moved in during Eid al-Fitr, the Muslim religious holiday celebrating the end of Ramadan. Since there were a lot of Muslim students in Malaysia House, it was a big celebration. I heard a lot of excited rustling and bustling while I was sitting alone in my new strange room. And suddenly, a knock on my door. Outside were a couple of young women, just a year or so older than me, who invited me to join in. And joining in, I did. In the feasting, the trip to the mosque, and the dishwashing afterwards. And with this started a friendship that would transform not only my time in Ireland, but my whole life. My very best friends were Tidi, Fanta, and Saima, who were respectively Malay, Nigerian, and self-declared Pakwejan, having grown up in Norway's tightly knit Pakistani immigrant community. We spent every day together, sharing the big moments and the small. Our friendships consisted of laughing together, talking, eating together, being homesick together, and sometimes mending each other's broken hearts. Once Fanta had to go to the hospital, and we refused to leave her bedside until after 3 days, the nurses kindly asked us to please leave at least during non-visitation hours. But what made our friendship so special was not only our closeness, but our vastly different cultural backgrounds, which we plunged into headfirst, full of excitement. Neither of us had any interest of becoming alike or trying to influence each other. We just wanted to know each other. We wanted to learn about each other. Through each other, we got a vision of this vast world that lay ahead of us, with all its different cultures, practices, and perspectives just waiting to be discovered. We embraced each other's differences with full hearts, and I believe that since we never set out to influence or change each other, we actually did end up influenced and changed in the most beautiful ways. At least I know I was. It broke me wide open to a beautiful world of diversity and difference. This time set the course for my life, and in a way it set up a utopia in my mind that I have ever since kept searching for, my own beloved community. However, what I have found more often than not is that instead of emphasizing and exploring difference, that is not something we tend to do very often. Much more often, we look for similarities. Especially when we meet people we deem quite strange, quite different from ourselves, the safe choice seems to be to look for what connects us, what makes us similar. We grab onto what seems most stable and tangible. And sometimes that is a good start, especially when we feel so threatened by each other that we fear that we cannot even engage with one another civilly. Not every relationship starts with a gentle knock on the door and an invitation to food and festivities. Often, contact with difference arises from conflict. This has been a common experience for many of us in the recent years, and in those situations, finding what connects us when we feel so divided is a valid strategy. At times, too, the small commonalities can give us a feeling of comfort and safety. And sometimes we need comfort and safety. We really, really do. But safe spaces are not brave spaces, and comfort does not inspire growth. if we look for similarities in the other, we will be left with nothing but the common denominator that we share. So we miss out not only on the greatness that the other might be, on the chance to be inspired and awed by all that sets us apart, but we also make ourselves small. We hide that which makes us different and suppress our whole selves. We squeeze ourselves into a cookie-cutter version because we fear that all that is outside of the established norm is too much for us to love and embrace, or too much of us to be loved and embraced. If everyone is the same, no one has to change. We may focus on similarities to show that we are just as good. Or we do so because we want to show that someone who's completely different from ourselves is just as good as we are, because they're not actually all that different. Think about it in terms of power. The theologian Bernard Loomer states that in traditional or hierarchical understandings of power, the most powerful person is the one who can influence others, the person who can set the norm and therefore make others convert, assimilate, be like them. So in a way, focusing on similarities is like calling it a draw. It's like agreeing on a power balance. We assume that essentially we are similar enough that neither has to force the other to be like them. In a way, it is a strategy to keep the peace when no peace is guaranteed. This can become problematic, though, if our desire for peace really just masks our desire to keep the status quo, our unwillingness to change. For example, a common way of insisting on similarity that seems well-intentioned but is in fact quite harmful is when predominantly white people claim to be colorblind to express that race does not matter to them. What they overlook is the vast difference in experience in how people of color are treated in the US, and if we overlook this injustice, we run danger of perpetuating it. Sometimes recognizing difference is the first step towards change, a way out of the status quo. Maybe what we've seen in these last 4 years is an unveiling of the status quo and the long legacy that has shaped it. Maybe what we have learned too is that the status quo is not acceptable anymore. We are reminded of this every time the police shoot an unarmed Black person. We are reminded of this when the COVID pandemic became such a partisan issue that case numbers are rising yet again. Hospitals are overcrowded yet again with patients on ventilators. The number of people who die of COVID goes up yet again, and we cannot get this crisis under control even though vaccines are readily available. We are reminded of this every time forest fires rage, claiming whole towns with their destructive force. And we're reminded of this not only when an angry mob storms the Capitol in a furious attempt to keep the status quo, but the existing power structures, even if it costs us our democracy. But in the ensuing investigations, large parts of our elected government try to convince us that in fact no real crime was committed and no harm was done. The status quo is unacceptable. We need a new way forward, one that is radically different. And we have to be open to difference so that we are also open for the possibility of creating something better. And in order to have that, we have to let go of the safety of what we know and embrace that which is different. if we want to create a justice system that is restorative rather than punitive, we have to embrace difference. If we want to defund or reform a police force that targets people of color, often with lethal force, we have to embrace difference. If we want to build an American society that does not have racism built into its very foundation, we have to embrace difference. And if we want to live in a nation that embraces the dignity of life, humanity, and the world we live in over profit and economic gain, we have to embrace difference. And embracing difference so that we may forge this new path may mean questioning and letting go of some of our previously held beliefs, because we now know that not all of them serve us well. We are out of the canoe. We are in the water. It is time to stop grabbing on to the perceived but deadly safety of what we know, the safety of the canoe, our long-held beliefs, and instead surrendering ourselves to the water of faith and mystery of difference. A courageous concept and a scary concept. A concept that requires us to start listening to the voices that have been marginalized and the ideas and visions that have been ignored because they have been outside of the norm, the status quo. It means giving power to those we deem different and trusting their leadership. But as Unitarian Universalists, we are in the blessed position where difference does not have to be that scary, because the first of our 7 or now 8 principles actually promises similarity. Similarity on the greatest common denominator that there is, that every person has inherent worth and dignity. If we remind ourselves of that ultimate similarity, we can stop searching so desperately for other commonalities and truly embrace difference. Holding on to the first principle is like a little floating device that will make surrendering to the water feel a little safer, will make the vastness of the world a little less scary. Shortly after my time in Dublin, I went abroad yet again, this time to attend college in the Midwest. I arrived 20 years ago in August of 2001. Just 2 weeks later, 9/11 happened. Like those around me, I was shocked, shattered, and scared. These feelings echo in me, especially now, as we are coming up on the 20-year anniversary of this day, but also when I watch the increasingly devastating news coming out of Afghanistan. But when, in reaction, a fear of difference flared up in the West in the form of Islamophobia, I knew deep in my heart, my bones, every fiber of my being, that Muslims were neither the problem nor a group to be feared. I know this not because I had experienced my friends, Tidi, Saima, and Fanta, and all the others as people who were just like me. I knew this because I had experienced them to be people with such immense inherent worth, with awe-inspiring, endless bounds of dignity. Their difference had changed me in ways that made my world a less scary place. And with that, too, I would become a less scary person to the people who perceived me as different. And this is an important part. Our journey towards feeling safe with and being open to difference on a large level can start small. With a group of friends, with listening deeply to activists and advocates of groups that we don't belong to, or reading an author with a truly open mind and heart. Radical change in our hearts and minds and in the world at large can start with small steps. If we return to Bernard Loomer for a second, he calls this relational power, the ability to both produce and undergo an effect. It is the capacity both to influence others and to be influenced by others. Relational power involves both a giving and a receiving. Ideally, this is what power, what relationships would look like in our beloved community, this utopia we are not just searching for, but we are actively trying to build. A willingness to give and receive, change and be changed. A mutual process of undergoing an effect to create something new, something better, something more just and more beautiful. And if you're worried that the change may go too far, that an unquestioned embracing of difference will lead to a dangerous loss of universal values, then here, once again, our first principle comes in not just as our starting point for exploration, but also as our ever-present safety guard. Because in the tumult of difference and change, our inherent worth and dignity is still constant and central. Difference, even radical difference, is okay as long as it does not threaten our inherent worth and dignity. That is the litmus test. If we mutually respect each other's inherent worth and dignity, both in theory and in action, in our treatment of each other, we need not fear each other, but instead we can work together to change the status quo, to create a difference in the world. If we take the first principle, our affirmation of every person's inherent worth and dignity, as the true cornerstone for our beloved community, as the starting point and the safety net, then within these boundaries, we can let go of our beliefs and instead hold on to our faith in each other, in ourselves, and in all of humanity. May it be so, and blessed be.
Thank you, Reverend Rica.
Unitarian Universalist congregations are fully self-supporting, meaning that members and friends raise all the funds for the operating budget. Ministries and programs of the church. We are ever grateful for your gifts of time, talent, and treasure. OCUUC amplifies that spirit of generosity by sharing one half of the plate we receive with an organization that shares our values. This month, we are supporting the California Cultural Resources Preservation Alliance, Incorporated. CCRPA is an alliance of Native Americans, anthropologists, historians, scientists, and interested citizens. Their mission is to protect and preserve cultural reserves such as sacred sites, archaeological sites, historic sites, and traditional cultural places in Southern California with a focus on Orange and Los Angeles counties. If you would like to learn more about CCRPA, you can read about them on their website at www.ocnonprofitcentral.org. There are multiple ways in which you can support the church and this organization. You can mail a check. You can go through our website, use an app called Give Plus, or if you are a roomer, you can place your offering in the basket as you leave the service today. The choice is yours. All the information is on our website should you need it. As always, thank you for your generosity.
Now, Zoomers, please join in singing, and Roomers, sway along as we sing Gather Together, a song that puts our intentions into words and expresses our gratitude for the many gifts we share. We gather together, we gather as one, for peace, love, and justice for everyone. We give from our hearts to show that we care. We can change lives with what we share.
Now is a time when we honor the important events in our lives. You are invited, one and all, whether you're a member, a friend, or a visitor, whether you are a roomer or a zoomer, to participate in our weekly ritual of joys and sorrows. Perhaps you have come here today holding something close to your heart, moments from the last days or hours that have struck you at your core. If you'd like to honor such a profound joy or sorrow, you're invited to do so. I would also like to invite Marilyn Giss, one of our pastoral care team members, up here to join me. She will be lighting a candle for you. If you are a roomer and you haven't yet placed your joy or sorrow in a basket, you can do so now. An usher will be picking up the basket in a moment. If you are a Zoomer, you can write your joy or sorrow in the chat, or simply write, "Please light a candle for me," if you prefer not to share details. Let us take a few moments of silence as Beth plays some music and the ushers retrieve the baskets. We have a couple of joys to share today. Aaron and Amelia Newstead, they say we just celebrated our 35th wedding anniversary. We are full of mutual gratitude. Congratulations. And Ralph Haller says he just celebrated his oldest son's 61st birthday by ordering him to sustain his sense of humor. David lives in San Francisco. And Tatjana Hauser says, "My mom is adopting a kitten to my children's utter joy." And I also have a personal joy. My sister is this close to giving birth. She has until the 1st, and then they'll induce labor, so I hope it happens. We also have a couple of sorrows today. Craig Preston, this is a joy and a sorrow. It's a sorrow for the heaviness of the climate crisis, and a joy for the European Union putting a price on carbon, starting on January 1st, 2023. Denny Devin Melville asked us to light a candle for Bob. And Meg lights a candle of sorrows for the very sudden passing of my friend Tony Dwyer this last Monday at Regent's Point. Tony was a very vibrant lady and a wonderful photographer, amongst other talents. Nikki lights a candle of sorrow for the sacrifice of our service members in Afghanistan. Corey Brown lights a candle of sorrow, my sister-in-law Justine in Charlotte, North Carolina. She's on the hospice journey with her parents, John and Moselle. Angela R. and 2 of her family members have COVID-19, so that is another candle of sorrow. And then Mifanwi Kaiser asked us to light a candle of sorrow. She says, please pray for my nephew's recovery. He's in very bad health. He's special to me. We were both born on the same day, years apart. Wishing I could be with you today. And Jen, I believe we also have some joys and some sorrows in the chat.
Yes, we do. I do want to bring one from Denny. She just wanted everyone to know that Bob is very ill, and please think good thoughts for him. So let's keep him in our thoughts and prayers. Valerie K asked us to please light a candle for her. Thank you. Appreciates that. Thank you, Valerie. Matthew P has a joy. He's very excited for Burning Man to begin today. The digital play opens officially at noon. There's so many different wondrous and artistic experiences, and almost everything is free to experience. Kathleen M asked us to please light a candle for her. Linda C, my heart goes out to all who are in the path of the latest hurricane. Ken A, so much sadness in the world this week from bombings, fires, floods, hurricanes, and deaths of loved celebrities. But joy and hope in the world today, celebrating my granddaughter's 11th birthday. Congratulations. That's all we have on Zoom.
Thank you. As we hold these in our hearts, all of the joys and the sorrows, let's offer healing thoughts or celebration or a prayer as you feel called to according to your beliefs. And we also have a pastoral prayer from Marilyn.
Recently, my heart has been heavy when I watched the news about Afghanistan. I grieve for the people who died since the Taliban takeover, and also in the latest attack at the airport in Kabul. I grieve for military families who lost their sons, fathers, lovers, uncles, nephews, friends, parents, and families. I grieve for all the shattered hopes, dreams, and lives. My heart is so full of grief. So I invite you to join me in a spirit of prayer for Afghanistan. God of many names, the generous, the all-merciful, the source of peace, we pray in thanks for Afghanistan, land of pomegranates and grapes, birthplace of Rumi, and I'm the bigger of the world, land days of contemporary Afghan woman. We celebrate people, Tajik, Hazaras, Uzbek, and Pushtun. We hear tabla, sitar, centaur, tabor, flute, and watch the attendant dance. We gaze upon art ancient and new, miniatures and the weaves of rugs like no other in the world. All earth opens its hands and receives the gifts of Afghans, and all the people pray each in their own way, many names and many words. For safety of Afghans in these days, seeking evacuation in the airport, moving quickly on the streets, hiding in homes, wondering about schools, for those who evacuate and for those who wait for what is next, for those who are foreign nationals and those bone deep with history in the hills, for faithful journalists still reporting and medical facilities desperate for block supplies, for Sikh and Hindu communities and their holy places, for the welcome of Australia and Uganda and families across the ocean and near at hand, grieving loved ones lost, life, body, mind in the long war. For the Afghan elder who has seen so much and the child who's born today, who will grow up to give a new life, a new gift. We pray, O compassionate, O preserver. Amen.
Let us join together as we extinguish the flame of our chalice and say together, we extinguish our chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you for joining us this morning. We are a congregation made up of people who all believe differently. And yet, when we are together, whether we are in room or on Zoom, we make up one loving community. We need not think alike to love alike. If you're a guest, a visitor, or someone who hasn't been yet known to us, I invite you to become part of this beloved community. We encourage you to either write in the chat or stand for a brief moment and tell us your name and where you are from. If you're here in Daniels Hall, Beth will bring a microphone over and hold it for you. Please speak toward the microphone so that our Zoomers can hear your name and where you are from.
We have any visitors in our sanctuary today, but Jen, are there any on Zoom?
I don't see any joining us on Zoom. Okay, we have Valerie K. from Los Alamos, Linda and Jim C's daughter. Thank you. Welcome, Valerie. Glad you're here. I don't see anyone else. So if you'd like to know more about our church, including programming for our youth and children, please contact us at hello@ocuuc.org, and we will help you get connected. In addition, we invite you to sign up for our weekly email called The Blast at blast@ocuuc.org. We want everyone to feel a part of this beloved community. So please reach out and we will help you get connected. After the service, we will have a short period where everyone, roomers and Zoomers alike, can wave and say hello and welcome any visitors. The Zoomers who will remain will be placed into Zoom breakout groups for 20 minutes. We invite you to check in and get to know the people in your group. And for this week's announcements, we have a save the date where we offer free flu vaccine clinic. That'll be Saturday, October 2nd from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. There are more details in the blast that you just recently received. And volunteers are really needed. So please reach out to Marilyn Giss and let her know if you're able to help. So we have our weekly and group meetings this going on. And one thing I do want to bring your attention to is the Orange Coast Choir. They are now on Zoom only again. And they do have a new time on Thursdays at 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. So kind of keep that in your mental health group there. And we do have our other weekly groups, the anti-racist book discussion, social hour, OCUUC writing club, and our meditation group meets on a hybrid session on Sundays from 9:45 to 10:20 a.m.
Wanted to offer a quick apology. I included the prayer for Afghanistan as a last-minute change, and I'm so grateful to Marilyn that she just jumped in and read that for me. I really appreciate it. I also realized as I was listening to it that when I was writing the introduction, my mind was firmly stuck in the 50s. It was very gendered and very centered on our male service members, and I apologize for the bottom of my heart. Of course, we also hold in our prayers and our goodwill, our female service members and our non-confirming service members. I did not intend any slight, and I apologize. In the words of Jean Ricard, we have a calling in this world. We are called to honor diversity, to respect differences with dignity, and to challenge those who would forbid it. We are a people of a wide path. Let us be wide in affection and go our way in peace. Amen, and may it be so.
Now please join me in singing or swaying to our goodbye song. Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me. Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me. And now our service is over. Let our service continue.